Good evening, everyone. Hi, my name is Meredith Bonn, and I'm going to be your moderator tonight. I'm just giving it another few seconds while our boxes fill in. We have a large audience tonight. So just 10 seconds of patience, and then I'll get going. So we will ask everyone to have your microphones on mute. I'm going to be calling on our panelists individually to answer questions for us tonight. But first, I wanted to tell you why we're here, what we're doing. This is a program brought to you by the National Court Reporters Foundation. My name is Meredith Bonn. I'm sitting in Rochester, New York, and I serve as chair-elect of the National Court Reporters Foundation, and most importantly, as chair of the Ask Me Anything Task Force. We have some of the task force members present in our audience tonight, including Rich Jermosin and Sandy Nayrup. We have a fantastic task force that helps put these together. Couldn't do this work without them, and I really appreciate all the help and support that I get for them. We also have a wonderful panel of dedicated, quality court reporters with us tonight that are going to answer questions about the most important issue in our industry today. How do I graduate? How can I do it now? How can I be less frustrated? What's going to push me over the finish line? It's super important. We want you working with us, and we want you working with us very quickly. So we're going to spend 1 hour together tonight. If for some reason we don't get to your question, or you thought of something else, or some panelist was giving an answer and you wanted more information about that, I'm going to let the panelists know that right now they can put in the chat box their contact information, a business email, a business phone number, something that they're willing to be contacted at. So make notes from the chat. If you want to reach out to someone after tonight, we're happy to talk to you. In a pause, when I'm not speaking, I will also put my contact information. Do not hesitate to reach out to us. We want to talk to you. We want to help you. I'll save the details about Ask Me Anything and what's coming up next for that until the end of our hour. So we're going to start with our panelists introducing themselves. And our first panelist is going to be Allie Hall.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to this Ask Anything session. NCRF is a huge part of our profession, and I really appreciate them putting these sessions on so that we can all learn things from them. My name is Allie Hall, and I'm predominantly a court reporting instructor, and I also freelance doing some depositions, although not many these days, but I still am on my machine a little bit. I have my RDR, CRR, my court reporting instructor certification, which is the CRI, and I'm a CSR in Oklahoma and California. I chose court reporting after taking a tour to a local business college. I had never heard about court reporting before. My dad went with me, and then we passed this big glass window where students were on those old little green paper writers, and I was like, what are they doing? What is that? That looks fascinating. And you could see from the looks on their face, they were like, it was tragic. They were like in it. And I just really wanted to know more about it. I'd never heard of it before. I was going to enroll and do some paralegal classes or legal secretary classes. And by the end of the day, they sent me over to the director of the court reporting program, and I was signed up to start in 3 weeks. And the rest is history. So there's my little bio on the front end here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for sharing. That's wonderful. Kensie, you're up next. Let's hear a little bit about who you are, where you are, what you do.
That is a tough act to follow, Allie. My name is Kensie. I am originally from the Beaumont area, which is about 2 hours east of Houston. I have been a court reporter for 12 years. I did 2 years of freelance, and I've been an official in a district court for the last 10 years. I now live in San Antonio, which I love. I moved here for an officialship. I'm pretty busy these days, working in a busy court, but I'm absolutely loving it. I have a newborn son. He's going to be 3 months in just a few days. Let's see, I used to teach for Simply Steno, which I really enjoyed. I love hosting conventions. I love speaking at different events and just really fostering those relationships with the next generation, trying to find the next generation of leaders. I currently run the Instagram page, Modern Steno Movement. The goal behind that is to showcase what we do and the equipment that we use, and trying to show that we're kind of evolving with technology and to get more people interested in this. We just hit 15 million views last week, which is crazy because I'm hardly ever on there being a new mom, but I'm really excited because that means that a lot of people are really interested in what we do. So thank you for having me here.
Oh, thank you for being here. Such wonderful backgrounds. Erica, let's hear about you.
Hi, yes. Hi, everybody. I'm Erica Wofford. I live in Austin, Texas, so not too far from Kensie. I started court reporting school in 2019. It took me 3 years to complete. I did everything online through the College of Court Reporting out of Indiana. I moved actually in the middle of school and in my high speed. So I moved from Atlanta to Austin and reached out to TCRA, and they were able to hook me up with some great mentors. And I got through all the testing while I was there. I'm certified with the RPR in Texas, in Nevada, and in Georgia. So when you do get certified, just do them all at once. It's much easier that way. How I got into court reporting, I was a paralegal for 10 years and I maxed out on my certifications. If you see, I got ACP after my name. That's an advanced certified paralegal. And I just couldn't see doing that for the rest of my life. I needed a career change, and I hit 30 and I was like, what am I going to do? And it was this or law school. And I always brag to the lawyers that I made the right choice. So glad to see you all here and looking forward to answering some questions.
You 100% made the right choice. My dad's an attorney. I tell him that too, that I was smarter. Erin, let's hear all about you.
Thank you, and good evening. My name is Erin Blair. I'm a freelance reporter. I live in Los Angeles, California. I've kind of been all over. I'm from Iowa originally, and I've held certifications in Iowa, Georgia, Washington, and now California. I started reporting in 2022, I think, and I started school around the time of the pandemic. I was looking for a career change. I was working in the service industry, and I wanted something that would give me more of a financial future, and also just wanted a change of pace. So my mom actually mentioned court reporting to me because she worked in courthouses a lot. She was a title researcher, so she was around a lot of court staff. And she mentioned that to me as a career that I might possibly enjoy. So I looked into it, and I registered for classes at Des Moines Area Community College, where I started my education, and that's in Ankeny, Iowa. And after that, I transferred to Simply Steno with Mark Greenberg, and I completed my schooling there. And I took the RSR certification, the Registered Skilled Reporter certification that NCRA offers, and passed that and used that to start working in Washington. And after that, I started working toward my RPR, the Registered Professional Reporter certification, and I completed that. And I decided to pursue my California CSR after that. Because moving to California was always on the radar for me. And this career gave me the opportunity to do that. So I've been a freelance reporter in Los Angeles, and I lived in Long Beach for a little bit too and reported there. I actually was mostly doing depositions, but I've actually kind of had a transition, and I'm doing a lot more freelance court work in Southern California now. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Thank you.
Outstanding. Exciting careers waiting for all of you graduates very soon. So my name is Meredith Bonn, and I will be your moderator. I have been a court reporter for 35 years. It's hard to say it out loud. I graduated in 1990 on a manual steno machine with paper. Went to Alfred State, also in New York State, and I graduated in 2 years. I hated math and science, didn't know what I wanted to do as far as college, but my dad was an attorney and I was not going to law school. I didn't like school that much. So my mother's side work was typing transcripts. Before they went on the computer system, she was literally typing transcripts from dictations for reporters that work in the same courthouse that I work in today. And she told me, I know these reporters are making a lot more money than I'm making typing these transcripts, and it's only 2 years of college. I was sold from 16 years old. I went right from high school when I was 18, graduated when I was 20 and 3 days old. So I've been a reporter ever since, 10 years in freelance and 25 in the courthouse. I love every minute of it, but that's not why you're here. You want to know, how do I graduate? How do I get out the door? So that's the question that we're going to start with. What's that big tip for how do you actually do it? Kensie, I'm going to start with you. Do you have an answer for that question?
Yeah, I think you have to be really honest with yourself and set goals about where you are and always reanalyze those goals. And so if something isn't working, I do think that you can stick with it for a little bit. But once you identify that it's really not working for you, I think that you have to move on and to try to do something else. So something, I see one of my mentees in here who's in Allie's school, Victoria. We've had many discussions. She's really great, but we've talked about different things that she could do. And so sometimes you'll have to, I believe that reaching out to a mentor is helpful, because when I'm talking about those things, you may not see those things yourself, but through talking to maybe your teacher or another court reporter, they might say, how many hours are you putting in? And is that really focused practice? Really analyzing the whole thing as a whole and continue setting goals.
Wonderful. Allie, I'm going to come to you next. How do you graduate?
Yeah, so I think having full, complete control over your headspace, it's something that isn't talked about a lot, but there's so much failure that comes along with the journey of learning the machine and mastering it. And it's really important to, I stress with my students, talk to yourself as you would your sister or your best friend when you're trying to make headway or gain some traction, especially because you're going to fail so many tests in order to pass a select few. And it's really important to have complete control over your headspace. You can have those moments where you feel like a complete failure, but let that go. The next day is a brand new, fresh start. And it's really important when you walk away from the machine to not take all of that angst and that failure mindset along with you when you're moving away from the machine. So I always recommend that you do your last 5 minutes of practice of the day at something that's very manageable and feels great. And then remind yourself as you're walking away from the machine that there was a time where that was hard for you, and it's not hard for you anymore. It's very manageable. But I think that you have to really be your biggest cheerleader as you're moving through speeds, and talk to yourself the way you would talk to your friend. If your best friend calls you and is discouraged and can't do something that they really want to do, you're not going to tell them they're a piece of crap and why are they bother trying, and all of the things that tend to go through our heads about ourselves, those self-deprecating thoughts. And so it's really important to lift yourself up, show yourself grace, realize that life happens, and it's really important to get back on the machine and treat it as a new day, a fresh start, and leave everything else that you did where it belongs in the past. And that's I think is something that a lot of students that reach out to me, they never heard about the mindset aspect of it before, or how much failure can really affect you and make you think that you're not good enough or you're not going to be able to do it. And I always recommend that you never quit unless you don't like it, because I firmly believe that anybody who enjoys the machine can master it and become certified and start working. You should only walk away from the machine if you don't like it and you don't see yourself doing this job.
Meredith, am I able to add on? Allie made me think of something.
Go ahead, please.
So when I'm talking to my mentees, I don't let them say, I'm terrible at this, or talk that into existence. Something that I really talk to them about is, that's just something we're working towards. We're working at becoming better at this, but we're not terrible at it. And so that the mindset part that Allie was talking about, that is so true.
Thank you. Erica, I'm going to turn to you next. And as you're unmuting, I just want to make sure everyone knows that some of the answers you received tonight may seem opposite to each other. They also may be something you've never thought of before. The reason why there's a wide variety of answers and techniques and tips and tricks to do that is because if there was one go-to tried and true answer that fixed this problem, none of you'd be sitting here tonight. So just keep an open mind that, you know, you're going to get that nugget of information that's the right fit for what your journey is. Erica, let's hear your answer.
That's exactly right. I also wanted to add, I forgot in my bio that I'm a freelance reporter, but I cover administrative hearings for the state of Texas. And so I cover like oil, gas, water permitting, all that big stuff that's really important and needs good reporters on it. So there's just a lot of different avenues you can take with this. But what got me through school is learning how, as difficult as it is, to let go of perfection. That was my being a type A, type person, and always being straight A's, never failing at anything in my life, to starting this and realizing that I failed at every step of the way, and to learn how to persevere through those failures and just learn to let go. That's what got me past the hump of getting into the higher speeds. I could keep control when I was in the lower speeds, but getting to the higher speeds, you had to just learn to trust yourself and let go of that perfection, which is once I realized that, once I got past that, I kind of sailed right along. But it took me a long time. I think about 180. I was stuck there. I was stuck at every single one, but 180 was kind of that turning point for me of learning to accept that you just have to let it go, like Elsa says, right?
Very well said. Erin, how did you graduate?
Wow, these are some strong acts to follow. So many good points already brought up. I really like, and I really resonate with what Allie said, particularly about getting your headspace right. Because it can be really demoralizing to constantly, get failed tests back and have to face it over and over and over again. And it's also really not, it's in the traditional academic mindset, it's not really motivational to be like, oh, I failed, but I still have to go back and keep, practicing. That's a really tough thing to cope with. So I think it's really helpful to just remind yourself that this is a really unique program and you're doing something that's really not traditional schooling. Because, traditional schooling, you take the exam, you pass the test, you get, whatever GPA, whereas here you're just trying to develop your aptitude until you reach the magic number and pass the test. And that's a completely different process. A lot of my background is, and I didn't mention this in my bio, but a lot of my background is playing musical instruments. And what I tell people when I talk to them about my schooling experience is that it's a lot more like learning a musical instrument than it is a traditional academic experience. And sometimes you're going to have bad days. And sometimes, the music coming out of the instrument is not going to be good. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't keep persevering and practicing and trying to improve your skills. And that kind of ties into the other thing that I wanted to mention, which for me, what helped me graduate was being persistent and being consistent in my practice routine, because you are developing new neural pathways to do something that your fingers have not been taught to do before. And that does take repetition to succeed. So even if you can only give a little bit each day, for me, that was really what I felt made the difference in getting through speeds and passing tests, was just being consistent and doing 10, 15 minutes a day, if that's all I can do. Just something to get the fingers on the keyboard and get things moving and get the neural pathways connecting.
Wonderful. So I don't think I ever knew it was called the headspace, what Allie was talking about, but mine was a mantra. The mantra was, it's just words. And for me, what that said was, why am I so scared of this test? It's just words. And it's a technique that worked for me for a really long time. But the reason I graduated is because of the brief form customer. I had learned a one stroke of how to write customer, and it came up on a 225 take, and I was so happy. I just learned customer. I can write that in one stroke. I wrote it. I kept going. So now positive, the power of the positive attitude. I'm happy because I nailed my brand new brief. But that didn't stop just for graduating college. I got into the court system because of the brief form for police officer. It happened to me on test after test after test. You keep working on those briefs, you keep writing shorter, and then one of the things that you've learned recently comes up in a test, and it really is like that positive burst of speed that you need to keep going. I do also believe in order to graduate, you need to get to the point where you can write without thinking. We spend so much time remembering our briefs, overanalyzing, thinking about what's going on. So we're practicing 20 words a minute over the test speed so that when the test starts, it sounds slower in our brains because we just listen to faster, and then just write. It's just words, let's just write. So those were things that worked for me. Several times it has been mentioned working with a mentor. So I want to mention right here, there's some of the sources for your mentors. NCRA has a mentor program, and you can find access to that on their website. Your state association has access to mentors. In large cities like Los Angeles, there also are local associations. So whatever your area is, you can of course have an online mentor buddy, and there's lots of places for that. But if you're a person that would like to meet face to face, go out for a cup of coffee, try your local freelance firm, try your local courthouse. When you reach out, there are tons of people that would love to talk to you. So if you have any trouble getting in touch with someone for a mentor, my email is up there. Please let me know if you have trouble getting one, but working with a mentor is a great technique for getting you to graduate. We're moving on to the question, what do you do when you get frustrated? So Kensie, I'm going to come back to you. What are your beat the frustration techniques?
I always go back to something that I'm really good at. I think that it's hard to sit at your machine when you're doing hard take after hard take after hard take. What Allie kind of touched on earlier was kind of ending on a positive note. I find myself coming back when I feel good about something. So that would be my answer.
Thank you. Erin, what do you do when you get frustrated?
I'm going to say something completely opposite. I think it's good to walk away, actually, sometimes when you're really frustrated. For me, it's really helpful to just step outside, take a walk. That's my favorite thing if I'm really overwhelmed, is to just go for a walk. And then, just listen to some music and just completely shut off that part of my brain that's frustrated about that situation. And then come back rejuvenated and ready to just knock out some practice. And yeah, maybe kind of tying into what Kensie said, maybe just doing something easy, something you can crush, or something that just doesn't really require a lot of thinking, like finger drills. That's still using your time effectively, but not pushing you to the point of frustration.
Allie, I'm going to come to you next.
Well, gee, look at all this good advice. I'm going to go with what Kensie said and Erin. So do both something you're good at and something that helps rejuvenate you. So I go eat ice cream because I'm really good at eating ice cream, and it also rejuvenates me. So I think it's really important just pointing out the fact that it's important to be able to deal with the failure or the frustration in a positive way by removing yourself from the situation and doing something that's polar opposite of having those thoughts run through your headspace. So for me, if I'm sitting on the couch eating ice cream, I'm enjoying every freaking bite. And I'm not worried about what just happened in this tragic deposition scenario or what's going to be going on later on. I'm just in the moment, and I kind of just have that moment, and then I get up and I'm good to go. So it's really important having those techniques in place to move out of the frustrated mindset and to be able to go do something that is not frustrating. And I always say, when I'm frustrated or disappointed about something, I let myself fall apart for 10 minutes. That's my window. And then after that, I get over it. And it's as simple as that for me. I'm not going to think about it anymore. If the thoughts start to creep in my head, I'm going to immediately replace them with something positive, and I'm going to go put myself in a situation where I'm not sitting here dwelling on whatever disappointed or frustrated me all day long. And, being able to respond to situations where you're frustrated and having the proper techniques to deal with that frustration is everything in your life. I mean, not just for work situations, but any situation. So I agree with both Kensie and Erin on this one. Do something that you're good at that feels really manageable, and also make sure that you're doing something where you get rejuvenated.
Very nice. Sometimes I think frustration has to do with identifying the source of your frustration. Are you frustrated because you haven't put your practice hours in? Are you frustrated because you just plain haven't done the work? Are you frustrated because there's a particular stroke that's messing you up that you haven't perfected? Are you frustrated doing a certain thing that you need to change the thing that you're doing? But if you have to reach that threshold, you're going to be really frustrated if you're practicing 1 hour a week. You're going to be really frustrated if you're not putting the time in. So identifying the source of the frustration, and then sometimes I've heard Allie give the answer before. She's frustrated with the more job specific speed dictations, but then go write a sports cast. You love the Food Network, go write the Food Network. You're still writing on your machine, pick something on YouTube that you're really interested in. So you're writing something different that shifts your focus, but it's a way to enable you to continue to practice through it. Erica, do you have something else to add about your techniques when you get frustrated?
So I'm going to go in a totally different direction from everybody. And I use my frustration to fuel my work. So I would, if I found, especially speed building, that I got frustrated with a certain part, you just slow it down, you break it down. Like Erin said, she was a musician. I was a musician growing up. And all you would do is you break it down and you start practicing that one little piece. And then you start adding to the piece. You start adding to the sentence in this case, you start speeding it up, and then you defeat the frustration. So I never really stepped away. I would just keep hammering. I would slow it down, like I would make it more manageable, but then I would get to a point of defeating it, and then I would walk away because I felt like I worked through my frustration, and I beat that sentence or I beat that paragraph, and I was able to, succeed.
I love it. All right, we're going to move on to talking about practice routines, how long we practice. So Erin, do you have tips for that?
Yeah, I do. So for me, when I practice, I usually start out with finger drills. I know some people really hate them. I know it's kind of can be a touchy topic, and some people really don't feel like they get any use out of it. But for me, it was really useful, especially kind of just getting my head in the game. It was really helpful for me to listen to music and just play some songs I like and do some finger drills. And then just go into something that is gettable, like maybe like target speed, so if I'm trying to pass a 180 test, I'm working on, 180 and maybe like a 180 jury charge, not trying to put, to do anything extremely precarious, just getting started there, and then gradually bump up my speed and maybe try for something a bit more challenging. In hindsight, I really appreciate that in school I had to do some more challenging dictations, like medical and complex, dense legal. I really feel like that those rounded me out to be a good court reporter, kind of like when you're a kid, you have to eat your vegetables, have to eat your green beans to grow big and strong. I think it's kind of the same thing. You have to do the thing you really, really maybe don't want to do, like medical terminology or dense legal opinion. But those things really do make you a stronger reporter. They show up in ways that you don't really realize. So in the middle of the practice, yeah, just really trying to challenge myself with complicated words. I also, during school, I tried to make a list of words that I knew I was misstroking consistently. And I tried to make an effort in every practice to drill those in separate sentences. Like, for example, if one of my trouble words was investigation, I would try and do sample sentences with the word investigation. So, where was the investigation? When was the investigation completed? The investigation was done. And just try and put different words before and after it, because a lot of times it's not necessarily the word itself that's giving you trouble. It's the word before, the word surrounding it, or the phrasing before it that's tripping you up. So it's helpful to have those to kind of complete your connection by having different phrases and different words surrounding certain words, because just drilling the word itself will only get you so far in trying to work through your trouble words. So I'll do my trouble words, do something more difficult, and then just come back down to something easy so I can walk away from my practice and feel good about myself, feel like I got something that I can get at the end.
I love that. Allie, I'm going to come to you next about practicing.
Yeah, so even as a working reporter, practicing is so important. And for people that think they don't have time to practice as a working reporter, 15 to 30 minutes a day is really nothing. You could do 3 10-minute sessions or 2 15-minute sessions, or even just 1 15-minute session. It really makes a difference with getting rid of those kind of spaghetti fingers, the first few pages on the record that you tend to have when they're doing appearances and things like that. If you're practicing daily, and as a student, practice is so important, but I really want to stress that it's not the quantity of the practice, it's the quality. So I am not a believer that you have to practice 5 to 7 hours a day to get results. I mean, I've had people transfer to my program that are doing that, and I ground them from practicing that much, because there comes a point where you are frustrated, you're over it, you're just sitting there flailing away at the keys because you feel like you have to get a certain number of hours in, and it's more about the quantity of your practice versus the quality. And you can accomplish so much more with 1 to 2 hours daily of focused practice where you're engaged, your notifications are off, you're not scrolling social media and pausing your dictation 3 minutes in, and you're actually sitting there giving it your all, and you're going to actually be more productive that way and get a lot more accomplished as far as building hand speed. So the other thing I want to say is, I'll have students say, well, I don't have a 2-hour window where I can sit down and practice. So 2 things, one that has to do with practice and one that doesn't, that I really think needs to be said in a forum like this. You can't compare yourself to anybody else on your journey. What you're doing is different than any person that's sitting next to you, albeit on a Zoom screen. So some people are in a very fortunate position where they're straight out of high school, or they're in a situation where a spouse can afford to support them, and they have no children, and they're able to devote 100% of their life to school, and they have no job. That's not the norm. Most people, this is a career change for them, so everybody's juggling their own thing. Some people have medical issues. Some people have kids. Some people have a full-time job and school. Some people have other things going on. And then also the age of your kids is a factor. It's harder with toddlers and babies to get through school than it is older children. So there's that. And then there's also smaller segments add up to the same amount of time as a 2 to 3 hour window. So if your schedule is such that you can get 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes over your lunch break, and 30 minutes early evening, and then another 30 minutes before you go to bed, or an hour, that's still 2 to 3 hours of practice. You don't have to be in a situation where you have a 3-hour window laid out every day. I don't know anybody that has a perfect 3-hour window in their day that they can sit there and do something for 3 hours straight. And it's much better practicing in small segments throughout the day as your schedule allows than putting everything off until you're so exhausted, all you're thinking about is sleeping, and you have nothing left to give to the machine. So I'm just strongly encouraging everybody who's listening to find what works for your schedule. Work those little 30-minute segments in. They all add up, and don't put yourself in a position where It's 10 p.m. at night. The machine's staring at you from across the room and you feel guilty. So you're going to go try to stay up till 1 or 2 in the morning and perform when you're exhausted and your brain is fried from adulting all day long and you have nothing left to give it. That would be my best advice as far as getting your practice in.
Thank you. I'm also going to segue right now to Rich Jermosin, partly because he runs a practice group, and for everyone to realize that practice is not going to end when you graduate. Rich, would you tell us about the 100-day practice group, please?
Yeah, sure. I just I made a space where we would all report and say, okay, today's day 100. I did 15 minutes of XYZ. And I made the page because I just found that I wasn't being consistent. I would do 3 days of practice, then maybe take a week off, or just practice for 2 weeks. But I would always trail off. So I wanted to get the consistency. So I said, I don't know, 100 days sounds good. So I do 100 days, 15 minutes. If it's 100 days before the speed contest, we all do 30 minutes just to get ready for the speed contest. And then when I get to day 100, I'll take 3 to 7 days off usually. Sometimes I think the last break was maybe 2 weeks. The idea being 365 days in a year. If you do 100 days, that's 300. So you're practicing a good 300 days out of the 365. So that's consistency. It's worked for a lot of people. A lot of people have gotten their certifications on the practice page. Some students have finished up their schooling on the practice page. And it's a good thing. I think, it took me a long time. I think I got out of school in 92. I didn't start practicing maybe till 2006 or something. So I wasn't practicing for a while. But you sort of emulate people that you're around. What is your crew doing? What are the people? What is your tribe doing? Is your tribe trying to get their RMR, their RDR? Back in the day when I started, my tribe wasn't doing any of that. My tribe wasn't going to conventions. So that's the reason why I made the practice page. I started going to conventions, and everybody for the contest would say, oh, I did great, but if I would have practiced a little more. And I heard that 3 years in a row from 2012 to 14. And I said, something's got to give. So I said, let's give this a try, And here we are. I think the practice page is 11 years old, about a week and a half ago. So yeah, that's about it.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Practice makes a difference at every step along the way. The practice page changed the kind of writer that I was, and was super great timing for me. I had been, I think I was on day 70 or 80 up in there when I had the hardest trial of my entire career, about Nazi looted art that had been recovered. Very long separate story, but the only reason that I had composure when 10 stranger attorneys were standing in front of me talking about a topic I'd never heard about, and a whole lot of terms that were from the German language, which obviously they still have to speak in English to make their record, but it was overwhelming to say the least. And I did great on daily copy for that trial because of the practice page. Erica, I'm coming to you next. In talking about practicing, how do you practice with purpose?
So I'm putting a PowerPoint. It's going to take a second to load, but I did a presentation. This is a presentation I've given a couple times before on how I practice. It might not work for everybody, but is it okay if I share my screen? Oh, you're muted, Meredith.
As long as it's enabled on the bottom of your screen, you should be good to share.
Okay, I just wanted.
Yes.
Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
It's just one of the slides from the PowerPoint. So I would print out the transcript. I'm a visual person. I'm a visual learner. Like I said, when I was a musician, I'm used to reading music. And so the best way for me to approach it and to give good quality practice was to actually print out the transcript. I used EV360 through the College of Court Reporting. And I think this is, transcripts are usually available with your practice. So I literally printed it out, and then I went sentence by sentence and put in the best possible steno I could be practicing. So all of the phrasing, all the briefs. Now my one from like 100 words per minute looks a lot different than my 200 words per minute, because I had developed my steno so much over that time. You develop what works with you, your briefs, your your phrases. So I would pre-do all the phrases and briefs, and then I'd break it down into minute chunks. So you can kind of see that number 1 there on the next slide. I have it, this is just, I know it's small, but there's a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and then this is the 5th minute. So I break it down minute by minute, and one take I would read along so that I know I'm practicing the best possible steno. And then the next take I would close my eyes. And I'd start slow. You start way under your speed, your goal speed, and you just work it up. I'd have my eyes open for one take, close them for the next take, and just work my speed up until I'm 20, 30 words per minute over my goal speed. And I know I'm practicing good steno. So this is really what got me through school. It was what worked with my brain, and it might work with yours. But being able to shorten your writing, concentrate on the briefs, concentrate on the phrasing, and making sure you're getting that those fingers down. And doing this was the best way for me to kind of like help myself, so I don't have to memorize everything all at once. Well, I can just memorize a minute at a time. I practiced 1 minute, I practiced the 2nd minute, I practiced the 3rd minute, 4th minute, maybe on different days. But then eventually by the end of the week, I was putting it all together, practicing minute 1 through 5 with my eyes open for a take, and then with my eyes closed. I had my music stand out, and I had all 3 pages lined up, and just went through the whole take and just worked that way. So definitely take a look at my PowerPoint, because I have a lot of other good pointers in there. But if you're a visual type person, if you have been a musician, this is a really good way to attack your practice and make it worth it. Make the quality really good. You're practicing good steno.
Outstanding. Thank you for sharing that. Kensie, how do you practice with purpose?
So something that we did in school that I still do today when I practice is I read back when I'm practicing. So it's become so easy to practice and to not really know what you're messing up on, or not analyzing your writing or the things that are tripping you up. But when I'm practicing, I'm going back and I'm challenging myself to read that. I personally do 1 minute takes. I focus on 1 minute takes 20 to 40 above my target speed, and I work my way down, and then I force myself to read it back. So when I was in school, they did call on us to read back sometimes at 260. And I really liked that challenge of having to read it back. So practicing with purpose to me means putting a little bit of pressure on myself to not be so relaxed about it, and kind of treat it like the real world, as if I am in a real world setting and somebody would be calling on me.
Thank you. Erin has her hand up.
Thank you. What Kensie was saying actually reminded me of something that I wanted to say. And that is, during my practice, I have found it really helpful to transcribe selections of my writing, and try and transcribe it like it's a test. Just, whatever dictation I did that I feel at least kind of okay on, because transcribing for testing is a skill, and trying to like read your slop steno is definitely a skill. And it can be hard to find opportunities to nurture those skills. So kind of in the vein of reading back, if you're maybe by yourself, or if you're like maybe out in public and you're like trying to practice and maybe can't read out loud, that's another skill that's totally worth practicing and utilizing. And it will help you in the real world when you're trying to read back to attorneys and it maybe wasn't the best steno in the world. It's helpful to be able to transcribe your notes on the fly and know your weaknesses as a steno writer. When you're like, for me, one of the things that I tend to do when I'm kind of falling off is stacking and splitting, where sometimes you'll have 2 outlines that kind of get mushed together, or you'll have pieces of steno outlines that are separated. And if you know which letters you tend to drag and drop, that can be really helpful when you're transcribing for testing.
Great. Thank you so much. Our hour is going very quickly. I want to move next to how do we overcome nerves on such a huge part of how do we graduate, conquering those nerves. So I'm going to start with Allie. What's your advice for how to conquer nerves?
So you really need to take your headspace to a place where you're not present in the moment of testing, which means that you need to be concerned about your immediate area and or talking to yourself in your head about your office space instead of thinking of every word that's coming at you tragically. If your brain is busy talking about your area that you're located in for your testing situation, it doesn't have the ability to second guess your hands. And your brain is what shuts your hands down. It's not the opposite. So when a test starts and begins to feel unmanageable, your brain is telling your hands that it's too fast or that you're trailing too far and you need to drop in your head and just listen for the next word or whatever it is. Or you're getting everything and you're telling yourself, this is the one, I've got this, and then you fall apart. So what I've had some success with teaching students and working reporters alike is focus on an area of your office and talk to yourself about it. So, this is my favorite pen. It's almost out of ink. Maybe I should order some more. Where did I order that from? Did I pick it up at the store? If you're doing real stuff like that, your brain's not going to say, you should have done that in one stroke and then correcting back, even though you have a perfect outline in 3 strokes, or some of the dumb things that we do when we're trying to perform. When you start to bring your headspace back into the words that are coming at you and you're thinking about the words, you move from the pen to the candle. Oh, I really like that scent. I've burned it almost to the bottom. Or where do I need to get another one? And if you're having those conversations in your headspace, the part of your brain that second guesses your muscle memory is busy doing something else, and it doesn't have time to second guess yourself. And I think that that's really important, just being present and not listening for every word. If you have performed well, you're not going to remember what the test was about when you're done. You might have a general familiarity with, oh, it's about somebody's family dog, but you're not going to remember the little intricacies of when they got the dog, what kind of dog it was, when it showed up at their house, or whatever the test is talking about. So you kind of take your memorization part of your brain that second guesses your muscle memory and keep it busy doing something else so that it can't second guess your muscle memory. And some of my students have had success with a lava lamp, just watching the lava lamp because it moves. It's like that old adage about finding a space across the room. The problem with that is if you're intently focused on one space, that may work for 5 or 10 seconds, and then you come back around and you're thinking about the test again. How am I supposed to do this? Is it 1 stroke? Is it 2 strokes? Oh my gosh, this is tragic. I don't know anything. And then you start to just like tank your headspace while you're testing. But if your brain's busy thinking about mundane random objects in your study space, it doesn't have the ability to tell your hands that they don't know what they're doing.
Outstanding techniques. Thank you for sharing those. I always, when I'm nervous for a test or fast dictation, is focusing on one spot. And I have a spot on my steno machine that I prefer. It's something about the position of my neck that, doesn't cause pain. But one of the reporters that I worked with that was struggling to graduate, she was spending all of her time looking at her real-time output. And so either it was coming up clean and she was losing her focus because like the whole, I'm getting this, look how pretty that is, or she's not writing well. Well, look, I failed that. Look at all the untranslates. Look at that. There's too much going on for her. She could not look at her real-time screen to pass a test. And I know there's some schools that say, like Allie's posting, never watch your real-time screen because the double input is slowing you down too much. Do we have more input on overcoming nerves? Erica?
Yeah, sure. So I would do breathing. There's meditation, but before I ever took a test, especially my certification tests, I took because you're all scrambling, getting set up, making sure everything's working, the computer's not gonna fail on you. Just stop and breathe. In 5, hold 7, out 5, 5, 7, 5. Do that as many times as you need before you jump in there. That just kind of reset my head. And some people, like Meredith and Allie were saying, choose a spot. Because I practiced with my eyes closed, I would close my eyes for every test. And it feels like you're shutting down all of your other senses so you can fully concentrate on what's coming in through your ears and what's going out through your fingers. And of course, 5 minutes is a really, really long time when you're trying to get through 225 words a minute. And inevitably, you're going to get shaky. Like, I just had to learn to work through the shakiness. Like, every single test I took, I was shaky. You just have to know your writing. Like Kensie was saying, be familiar, and Erin too, be familiar with what your steno looks like when it comes out, messy or clean. Do your best to learn how to translate it. I took all of my tests, even certifications, in steno, and then I would translate everything. I didn't do anything through English because I felt like I could translate better at that point. Now I fully rely on English, but at that point, I felt like whatever English got spit out from my dictionary wasn't going to be as good as me looking at my steno and determining where the catches were. So really get familiar with your steno and translating it to English and rely on that. That's what's going to get you the passes. But yeah, work through the shakes. If you do drop, just try to stay on top. I know they say get something for everything, but that's part of what I was saying at the very beginning of the letting go and the just letting your fingers flow. And it's easier said than done. It takes a lot of practice and trust in yourself and confidence. That was my biggest thing, is building my confidence so that I could pass this. Like, I'm practicing at 275, 280 to get that 225. But because I was able to, kind of grasp on to the 270, 280 area, it made the 225 feel more attainable, and that built my confidence. So a couple tips.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We have time for more questions tonight, but I need to get in a photo. Here's the scoop. The Ask Me Anything series has been going on for 3 years now. And part of the reason we've been able to continue is because we advertise it on social media, we get the word out. So if you don't have your camera on and you would like to turn it on, now would be the time. Rich Jermosin is going to be in charge of taking our picture. He'll have to take a couple because there's 3 screens worth of people. But just really thank you for letting us share your faces with the opportunity to say, you too should join the next Ask Me Anything session.
All right, we all ready? Cameras on. Let me just take this note out here. All right. So first one, 1, 2, 3. And let me get the next screen. And 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Rich. I really appreciate it. Thanks for doing that for me, folks. It's awesome. So a couple of the questions that were submitted by the audience, I won't be able to get to all of them. I will remind you, reach out, find somebody you're willing to contact afterwards if I don't ask your question that you submitted. Victoria asked, what is one of your favorite briefs? So clearly everyone knows that my favorite brief is customer because it helped me get my 225. But Kensie, do you have favorite briefs? Put her out. You're on mute.
Can you come back to me? I wrote 300 pages today, so I'm trying to
You're
think.
all good. Erin, do you have a favorite brief?
Come back to me too, because I'm kind of looking through my dictionary right now and trying to see if there's one that just jumps out at me.
Oh, outstanding. And I'll share mine too as people think about answers to this question. I did not learn very many right-hand phrase enders, but I was told, oh, there's a shortcut. Like, they're going to teach you at Alfred that you write answer bank and then yes, but you can write yes answer bank in one stroke, and you can write yes sir and no sir in combination with the answer bank as one stroke. And I was like, ooh, look at Meredith, way ahead of the curve. Like, she's writing all these in one stroke and everybody else is doing it in 2 or 3. Can I tell you that I never learned ma'am, yes ma'am in one stroke? I wrote, even though I was writing yes and yes sir in one stroke, I never wrote yes ma'am or no ma'am. Why? I did not walk across the bridge to the rest of those, words in the pattern beyond me. And it didn't Wasn't until I got to the 100-day practice group after I'd been a reporter for 20 years did I learn more right-hand phrase enders and really shorten my writing quite a bit. Erin, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I thought of one. And it's partially admittedly because I've been on vacation, so I haven't been writing as much, so I'm not thinking like that. But kind of in the context of doing more court work recently, one that came up that I had never used until I started doing court work is, and I'm gonna put it in the chat right now. TRUFM for truth of the matter asserted. Doesn't come up often in court, but when it does, they say it so fast. Like especially when you get into like kind of denser legal opinion type things, some of these very complex legal jargon type words, they say in half a second. So that's, for me, those kinds of briefs are really useful.
I love it. Stephanie submitted a question about where do you start with financial support? So of course, that's another resource provided by the National Court Reporters Foundation. We have scholarships for students and grants for working reporters. So ncra.org, and you can search for scholarships for there. You can go directly to the foundation's website. There are a bunch that they're advertised not just on the website, but in all of our social media, whether you're on Threads or Facebook or, you know, the various social media platforms. So obviously being a member helps you have access to what scholarships there are available. And that's one of the answers for financial support during school. And you can reach out and ask Erin questions. She was even the Monine Black award winner. So you can ask her about the application that she put in for that. Did you put an application? You were nominated for it.
I did put in an application.
Okay.
I think it goes both ways. I think I put in an application and I was nominated, but yes.
And what I'll tell you the most about applying for the scholarships is not very many people follow through with their paperwork. So if you're willing to buy a lottery ticket that's, you know, 1 in 35 million people is going to win $20, apply for a scholarship where 10 out of 13 people are going to win money towards school. I mean, the odds are so much more in your favor because so few people follow through with their paperwork. Keep track of the deadlines, put in your applications. It'll be worth your time. We're down to 2 minutes. I'm going to go to each panelist, but before I do that, I'm going to say, please join us again. We're going to have me and Ask Me Anything on the end of October. It is about mentoring, but not about being the mentee. It's the next session on Ask Me Anything is about being the mentor. Not the last Tuesday of the month, but the November event is on November 18th about attending NCRA boot camp, and on January 27th, fiscal responsibility. So if you have questions about getting started with your businesses or how to be fiscally responsible in your career, please sign up for the next one. We would love to have you back. And so I'm going to start with Allie. What is your top piece of advice?
For getting through school?
Yes.
All right. You got to be committed to court reporting and not interested in it. There's people all day long, every day that are interested in court reporting. But unless you're committed to it, it's the only way you're going to get through court reporting school, and be willing to put the work in that's required, and just realize that not every day is going to look the same. You're not always going to have 100% to give it. You have to learn how to show yourself grace, realize that life happens, and then approach it hard and fast. And like I said before, treat it like a new opportunity. That's my best advice for making it through school, is be committed instead of just being interested.
Kensie, what's your top piece of advice for how to graduate?
I mean, very similar to Allie's. You have to hold yourself accountable and always be honest with yourself, and really kind of, I always say, like, you have to look ahead. Okay. So you have to kind of pre-plan and know that, like, you're not going to practice every day, but when you may not, unless you're in Rich's group. But like, my wife is in court reporting school. As I said, she's in Allie's school. And so right now she's really trying to manage her time with a newborn. And so you have to constantly just like look and see what you're doing and make sure that it's kind of fitting in with, I know I'm not making sense, I'm so sorry. It's fitting in with the things that are going to make you successful. So not just sitting down at your machine for 4 hours. It's actually sitting down and practicing with a purpose and constantly reevaluating.
Thank you. Erica, what is your top piece of advice?
So first off, I threw my phrases and my briefs memos in the chat. Go ahead and download those. Those are my personal Word documents. So if something's highlighted, it's just something for me, but it might give you some ideas for briefs, ideas for phrases. I liked what Meredith said. I add a lot of to my Q's and A's, like the extensions, Q&A extensions. So take a look at those. That's just what has worked for me. But to get through school, yeah, perseverance, holding yourself accountable, everything that everybody said. But I really want you to focus on when you go to work. You have to learn your software. You need to know how to make a transcript. You need your grammar. You need the whole kit and caboodle. Yeah, speed building is a big part of it. It's how you get your certification. But use school to better yourself for the first day when you're on the job. Take as many shadowing opportunities as you can. Find mentors, an official and a freelance mentor. You need both, especially if you need certain hours. Get involved in your local, in addition to NCRA, get involved with your local associations. There are smaller associations, there are state associations. Make connections. This is your time to prepare yourself for the outside world. So remember, you're going to go work after this. So you got to make sure you're prepared and use school to prepare you to do that.
Thank you. Erin, your top piece of advice.
So for me, I would say top piece of advice I could give is that when you're feeling frustrated, I think it's really helpful to have positive visualization of your future. You know, like me, 2 or 3 years from now is going to be so stoked I put in this work right now, and me 3 years from now is going to is not going to remember this failed test, is not going to care about this, is not going to be as upset as I am right now. And that this is just a moment in time and I am just moving through it. And no matter how frustrated you feel, you're walking a path that so many people have walked before you. And in the moment, I've talked to a lot of students, and in the moment, I know that it can be kind of hard to not feel like, I'm the only person this is happening to. I'm so mediocre, whatever negative self-talk you're going to put in your head. It's really hard to kind of separate yourself from that, but it really is just a moment in time, and you can pass through it. And yeah, I think that's all I got. Thanks.
That's wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful. My top piece of advice is those who show up, go up, show up in your practice, show up to class, show up with your mental health, show up with your physical health, with your following through. If you have a mentor, don't be ghosting them when they message you. If you have an internship, show up for all of your hours. When you put in all of that effort, you show up for all of the things, you will go up to the faster speeds, to the better jobs, to the better work. We are past our hour, so thank you for your patience with that. And thank you, panelists, so very much for your input, for your time, for your wonderful advice. Thank you, audience, for committing this hour to learning how to graduate. I appreciate that you showed up. I appreciate that you were willing to listen to what we had to share this evening. Please share if it was a wonderful experience for you with others so that we can meet more future court reporters very soon. I hope to catch you on another Ask Me Anything, and have a great rest of your evening. Good night, everyone.